Good afternoon, YouTube. This is Real Life Reviews. Today we're going to be reviewing the Coleman 18x48 Power Steel Vista Series 2. A lot of data to cover in this review, so stick with us. In the past, I reviewed a Vista Series 1, had great success with that video, and now we're reviewing the Vista Series 2. There's been two notable changes, and we're going to cover those in this review. So basically what I'm going to do is give you an overview of what the pool is, what it comes with. We're going to go through an assembly process, an explanation of that, review the product itself, and then give you a little recap at the end. So let's get started. The overview of the pool is that this particular pool is an 18x48, which means it's roughly 6,400 gallons at 90% capacity. This pool comes with everything you need except for water and chemicals. It does come with a ladder and a cover. And it also comes with a very undersized pump, which we're going to talk about here in just a little bit. Now towards the assembly. So one of the changes that was made from the Series 1 to the Series 2 is that the liner is a few mils thicker. As a matter of fact, it doesn't even come with a tarp for the ground anymore. I found this to be odd. I thought I was missing the tarp, and I opened up the IPL, which is the Illustrated Parts List, and the tarp wasn't even included. But as I pulled the rest of the pool out, I realized that the bottom of the pool seemed to be thicker, as in the mill was thicker, a thicker liner. Even still, I went ahead and purchased a 19x19 tarp because there are some twigs, rocks, things in my yard I cannot see, and I just wanted that extra layer of protection on the bottom. Once I got the tarp down and I put the pool on top of it, I did go around with a razor blade and trim all the unnecessary fat off of it because I wanted the presentation to look nice. So a 19x19 tarp, if you want something like that, I'll leave a link in the description box where I got mine from. The way I set mine up is basically the easiest way you can do it. I laid out my tarp first, and then I went around and laid out all my feet and legs, cross members. So I went around and spread out 18 feet around where I thought they should go, and then I spread out 18 legs, 18 cross members, and 18 T-handles. And those are just the steel pieces of the assembly. Then I laid out the pool itself. I stretched it as far as I could. I then took the cross members, which is the shorter pieces of steel, and I run those through the sleeve at the top of the liner. And then I took the T-connections and I connected both of the cross members together. I ran one of the plastic pins on each side with the grommet on top. Then you connect the legs, which are the longest piece of steel, to the feet at the bottom and the T-connection at top, and that's all there is to it. Now, as you go around straightening your legs out, you do want to take the bottom of the pool and pull it as far as you can. You don't want any wrinkles. Now, I did find that after you get about an inch of water in the pool, this is the easiest time to go around in the pool with your feet and kind of kick the edges out. And that, don't push a hole in the side of the pool, but kind of kick the edges out, and that'll help pull your wrinkles out. If you get more than an inch of water in there, you won't be able to get any wrinkles out. Trust me, been down that road, it's terrible. If you do have a wrinkle at the bottom, it's not a showstopper by no means, but it will trap debris over time, and it makes it hard for things like nets and vacuums and stuff to clean inside of a crinkle in your liner. As far as the stability of the pool, the legs and whatnot during the assembly process, you should put these feet on something. Over the last few years, I've always used 12x12 concrete pavers. This year, I did go ahead and change that to a piece of decking. It's 3/4 by 5.5 inches, and I took that board and I ripped a whole bunch of little sheets down to 12 inches. I set up a stop block at the end of the chop saw and just made a whole bunch of them. You know, you have 18 feet on an 18-foot pool, so I need at least 18, and then if I have a couple of low areas, that's when I could add a second one to kind of raise that leg up. Now, I wouldn't put 4 or 5 blocks on there. By no means. You'll compromise the integrity of the pool and it becomes dangerous. But if you wanted to add an extra 3/4 of an inch just by putting another one of those boards, you could. And the reason why I got away from the pavers is because they do have rough edges, and the motion of the liner and the motion of the water would cause it to rub up against the pavers, and that could do damage to the pool. I never had a leak or even remotely got close, because once I saw it touching the liner, in my weekly walk around the pool just to make sure I didn't have any leaks or anything, then I would immediately start pushing those back, and in some cases I would have to drain water just to pull a block back. I didn't want to do that anymore. So for the feet, I ended up cutting about 26 or 27 pieces. The reason why you want to have those blocks under there is because if the ground gets wet, and it will because it's a pool, there's a lot of weight in this water. 6,400 gallons times 10, that's a lot of weight. It's going to push an enormous amount of weight down, and these feet will sink in the ground, so you do want to put something underneath them to kind of hold them up where they don't sink. If they begin to sink, it'll make your pool become unlevel, and unlevel pools turn disastrous. Filling it with water takes about 14 to 16 hours. Now let's talk about the plumbing. So on all of these vinyl pools, whether it's an Intex Best Way or a Coleman pool like this, they all have 2 suction ports, as you've seen, in one discharge, 2 B's and 1 A. And that's not just for these kind of pools, that's for every pool and spa since 2007. Let me explain why. In 2007, Congress passed a bill called the Virginia Baker Act. And basically what that means is that all pools and spas have to have 2 unobstructed points of suction. Ultimately, to break it down, is you can't just have 1 port of suction. The suction is too great. If it was to get a piece of clothing or a swimming device down in there, maybe a small child gets up next to it, it could hold on to the child and not let the child up out of water. The suction becomes too great, because if you notice, once you start closing off those suction ports, the suction becomes stronger. Eventually strong enough to it'll either hurt you or break the pump, and your pump is probably going to win every time. For example, let me explain. So this is not my first time down this road. I started off with the original pump, knew within a few weeks I would have to change on my original pool. Went to a 12-inch sand filter, which is the 2160 Intex, and then this year I've stepped up to a 16-inch Intex sand filter. That's 3,000 gallons an hour. It'll suck a bowling ball through a water hose. And if I had it coming out of only 1 port on that pool, not only would it probably damage the pool, but if you were to get your finger down in there, it would probably break your finger. There's so much suction coming through that. So what I have done is I've hooked mine up to a Hayward wide mouth skimmer, which is a completely different video. I'm just explaining to you right now why there's 2 ports of suction on these pools. They do come with the plugs to plug them up in order to do maintenance, but you don't want to close one of those ports off, especially if you have small children that are just beginning to learn how to swim. That is a terrible and dangerous idea. So what you do is you take both of your B ports, hook them to your 1 main hose, which is 1.5 inches. It goes to the in port of your original pump. And then you take the A, which is your discharge, and hook it to the out of your original pump. So let's try to wrap this thing up with a review. I'm going to give it 4.5 stars. I'm stepping up my review from Series 1 to Series 2, and this is why. So the ladder hasn't changed, but it held up for 3 years. I didn't think it was going to hold up for 5 days. And when I get on it, it's a serious load. So I'm not going to ding it for the ladder. You know, the ladder has helped me out. Now I've got 2 of those ladders. I'm excited about it. I'm not saying it's any better quality. I'm just saying, hey, it actually is holding me up, and that is something I wasn't expecting. So I'm not going to ding it for that. The instructions, I was also harsh last time about the instructions, but really, I mean, there's not much to this pool. A couple of YouTube videos and you really can get it up. Hopefully you can get it up with just my video that you saw here today. So I'm just saying we don't need much in the way of instructions. What I would like for them to do is take the money from the paper they saved on the instructions and put it towards another pump. The pump is going to cause this thing to lose a 1/2 star. Will it pump? Yes, we talked about that in last week's video. It's going to pump, but it's not going to pump the way you should have it pumped. This is a 6,400 gallon pool, and the maximum GPH that this thing can do is 1,000 gallons an hour, and that is under perfect conditions. I think the pump is going to keep the product from getting a full 5 stars. Now, I'm going to give it a little bit more boost this year because I believe the windows are fixed. I'm happy with the integrity of the windows. I'm happy with the fact the liner comes all the way over and they have an oculus effect to them to where they look like they're magnified. They have a little divot in the middle. That's really cool with this particular pool, and also the liner seems to be thicker. So with all that said, the overall review for this product is 4.5 stars. Now, we barely touched on this pool. We've done a lot of things. We haven't talked about chemicals. We haven't talked about lighting, landscaping, safety. We haven't talked about a heater hack. We haven't talked about any of those things. And in the past, we've done a lot of add-ons, and I generally try to have fresh content out every week. It looks like I'm going to have to do 2 or 3 videos per week over the next few weeks in order to get kind of caught up with the new swimming season. So if you're interested and you like things like real life reviews, if you like this video, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe to this channel for those types of reviews. So I know there was a lot we covered in this review, but we barely skimmed the surface. Generally, I try to get out some content every week, but it looks like I'm going to have to do 2 or 3 videos a week just to get kind of caught up. We haven't even talked about chemicals. We haven't talked about lighting, landscaping, pH balancing, heating the water. We haven't covered any of that stuff yet. So go ahead and subscribe and look for those videos to be coming very, very shortly. Anything in this video that you've seen, I will leave a link in the description box of where we purchased it from. And if you have any questions, comments, or concerns about anything that I covered, you can leave that in the comment section and I'll be happy to get back with you. Until next week or even earlier, this is Real Life Reviews.